autism can come in three types. Visual thinker like me, horrible at higher math. Mathematician, pattern thinker mind. Math, pattern, music mind. Or an extreme word thinker, memory person that memorizes every fact about movies. And they can be very, very good in specialized retail. Because one of them worked for an auto parts store and they memorized every part number in the warehouse.
Welcome back to She Can, where we tell women's stories. We show how women got to where they are today. And I'm unbelievably honored today to welcome Temple Grandin to She Can. Temple, thank you so much for taking the time. You are an incredibly important role model. You're an American scientist and industrial designer. You're very famous for your groundbreaking approaches to decoding animal behavior. You've designed and innovated livestock handling facilities. You're a professor of animal science at the Colorado State University. You've written countless books on animal handling, animal welfare, as well as autism and how different minds work and how important it is to have neurodiverse minds in teams, in companies, in universities, and all over the world. You did a very famous TED Talk, The World Needs All Kinds of Minds. And you also had a film made about your life with Claire Danes playing you, and it had many Emmy nominations and wins and a Golden Globe win. And you're also in the Women's Hall of Fame. You speak all over the world on autism and animal behavior. Tell us a little bit about your younger years and how you got onto the road and how you got to where you are today.
Let's start with exposure to the career. I did not come from an agricultural background. I was exposed to cattle as a teenager. I went to a boarding school. They had a 12-cow dairy. I learned to milk cows. Then about a year or so later, I went out to my aunt's ranch in Arizona that introduced me to the West and to the beef industry. That's exposure. Now, another really big thing is seeing doors to opportunity. There's a very important scene in the HBO movie Temple Grandin where I go up to the editor of our state farm magazine, get his card, because I'd already done a master's thesis on the behavior of cattle and different types of squeeze chutes. And I offered to write a summary of that. I got his card, then I produced a good article. And I had the guts to get up there and get that card. A lot of people don't see doors to opportunity. Being a woman in the 70s, in the Arizona cattle industry was not easier, but ag journalism did have women in it. Easier to get into that.
Yeah.
And then I started writing a column. Then they made me the livestock editor. And then I wrote in the national cattle magazines. I also worked for a construction company for a while, and I learned steel and concrete work. And after I left that, I got an offer to design the Dip Fat project that was shown in the HBO movie. And the owner of the feed yard came up to me and asked me if I'd design it. And I said, give me 3 weeks. I was at the 75% level of competence. I knew the cattle handling, but I did not know concrete reinforcement. I had to get an engineered drawing, and that would have to be gotten in the mail. I got on the phone the next day, and I actually produced the drawing in 2 weeks. But a lot of women are too scared to go through the door unless they're at the 90% level of competence. So those are some things on how I got started. And as a woman, where I had difficulty was with foremans, middle management. All of my trouble was with middle management.
Yeah.
The big owners of the places, they were good to me. The people working on the front lines were also good to me. But that's an example of seeing 2 doors of opportunity, and I went through them, getting the card. Then, as I designed these projects, I wrote about them.
Yeah.
I wrote about them. I published the drawings. I wrote about them. Writing was a very important part of my career, but it started really little with that scene of going up and getting the editor's card, just like it's shown in the movie.
Yeah. And you wrote, I mean, countless hundreds of scientific papers. You wrote lots of books. Temple, when did you think I need to speak up for people who think like me, for people on the autistic spectrum? When did
Well, I'm at the time when I did the thing. I'm sorry about interrupting. This is where I have problems with timing conversation. At the time I did these things, I did not know that other people were not visual thinkers. I think completely in pictures. The movie shows that accurately. And I got down the chutes to see what cattle were seeing. I actually did that. And I didn't know until I was in my late 30s that other people thought verbally. Now, in my book, Visual Thinking, The Hidden Gifts of People Who Think in Pictures, Patterns, and Abstractions, there's actually three kinds of thinking. There's visual thinking like me, and we're good at art, and we're also good at mechanics, and we absolutely cannot do algebra. But you know what I discovered when I started working in construction? There were all these people in the shops that couldn't do algebra, but they were inventing and patenting mechanical devices. And then later on in my career, they built things for me. And the degreed engineer does the mathematical part of it. But there's all this engineering work you can do, what's called industrial process equipment. I discovered that. You didn't need an engineering license. As long as they didn't touch the roof structure, I was very careful to stay out of that. Never called myself an engineer. It was always livestock handling consultant. Very careful to always use that title. But there's the visual thinkers that do all these mechanical things, and they invent lots of things. Then you have your mathematical engineer. For example, in a food processing plant, the mathematicians do the boilers and refrigeration. My kind of mind does the packaging equipment and all the mechanical devices. And I'm concerned about algebra requirements screening out a lot of visual thinkers. So how to get a PhD? Dodging math classes. I majored in psychology. And then I majored in animal science. I got a C in statistics. I had to be tutored. And another thing I did is when I failed that first math quiz, I got tutoring. I did it right away. A lot of students don't ask for help quickly enough. But I had to drop a physics class and I had to drop a biomedical engineering class. But you know what? Biomedical engineering needs me, because that horrible hip gut design that was metal on metal and gunk went into people's bodies. I wouldn't have made that mistake. I would have seen it.
Temple, and you really show with all the work that you do that it's so important to have different kinds of minds to work together, to
Absolutely.
innovate, to bring new things into the world that is so needed. What are you most motivated by now? Now you work at the State University of Colorado. You're still incredibly active. What motivates you most now?
Well, I've done a lot of work to improve animal welfare. That was about 20 years ago. I implemented a lot of animal welfare guidelines.
Yeah.
Because I had a lot of equipment out in the industry, but a lot of people were tearing it up and not managing it properly. So what I worked on the animal welfare evaluation, that forced the meatpacking plants to manage their stuff. Really, really important. And in 1999, I had McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's all enforcing the same standard. Oh, it worked like magic. But now, at the age of 76, I want to help the other people, especially the visual thinkers like me, to be successful. And one of the places they can be really successful is anything to do with mechanical equipment. A lot of these kids are getting addicted to video games, but video game design is going to get taken over by artificial intelligence. Building mechanical things, fixing mechanical things, that's not going to get taken over by artificial intelligence. I mean, you're going to need people like me to keep the waterworks running, keep the power grid on.
Yeah. Temple, and what are you most proud of? You've achieved an incredible amount in your life. You've overcome the odds so many times. You've really shown how a visual thinker can achieve so much. What are you most proud of?
Well, the thing that probably made the greatest effect on animal welfare was the auditing program, the assessment program, originally designed for the American Meat Institute, very simple scoring system. And then the thing that really made the big tipping point of change was when I had McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's in 1999, all enforcing it. Very simple system. And it forced people to repair equipment, manage equipment, and supervise employees. That made a huge difference, because when I was young, I made the mistake a lot of engineers make. I thought I could build a self-managing cattle handling system. That's rubbish. You know, people thought the internet would transform the schools. It did not.
Yeah.
It doesn't replace teachers. This brings up another important thing, mentors. And one of my mentors was Jim Uhl, a small contractor He built my projects back in the 70s. He seeked me out. He helped me get my business set up as a business. I didn't know how to do that. But there were some very good mentors, and there were also some really good people that own the feed yards and the other places. And then as a young child, I had a great science teacher as a teenager who motivated me to study because I was a goof-off student. But mentors are also extremely important.
Yeah.
But I see too many kids today, when they get a problem with a class, they don't ask for help, and they don't have the confidence to go up and get the card. That's an extremely important scene in that movie when it comes to career.
Yeah, and I love those scenes because it's always about a door. You always use the door as
That's right.
You gotta get through the door, and that really is in so many different scenes in the movie, and I absolutely love that because it's exactly how it is. You see the door, don't leave it closed, walk through it, and you've done that so many times, even though you were wildly out of your comfort zone.
That's right. But the thing is, those doors are only open. The editor was at a cattle event. Why he was at this particular cattle event, I don't know.
Yeah.
But you got to go up and get the card because the next day he's going to be gone.
Absolutely. Temple, so what tips would you give for young people or young women or, women of all ages really, to have the courage to walk through these doors? How to realize?
I would recommend if they're a college student, get involved with helping professors with research projects, go do career relevant internships, because you need to find out what you like, but you also need to find out what you might hate. Okay, so maybe you majored in microbiology, and some people are going to love working in a lab, and another person is going to try and go, well, I hate that. Yeah. It's important to find those things out. Try lots of different things. Travel's a great educator. You get an opportunity to travel. That really changes your perspective on things.
Yeah. Yeah, and Temple, you've really innovated all throughout your life. You've invented a squeezing machine when you were in college that made you feel better when you were feeling outside of your comfort zone and like you couldn't do things, which is hugely inspiring. This how you used your talents to innovate and come up with new projects all the time to either for animals or for yourself, to combat anxiety and to overcome issues is really inspiring. How do you inspire the students in your class to do the same?
Well, I see too many students, they don't have much confidence now. You see, when I was a little kid, I'd spend hours tinkering with little kites to make them work better, tinkering with little parachutes to make them open up better. Kids aren't doing those sort of things. I'm seeing autistic kids today, too much getting done for them. They're not learning things like shopping or how to order a pizza online, just basic skills. They're not learning. Parents tend to do everything for them. Well, that wasn't the case with me. I was shopping when I was 7, 8 years old. I had 50 cents a week for allowance, and I'd go buy little airplanes and buy comic books. But if I wanted that, I got 50 cents a week. And if I wanted a 69-cent airplane, I had to save for 2 weeks. I was learning that as a very, very young child. And that was typical 50s upbringing. Typical.
Yeah.
But you got to get out and try stuff. And when the door to opportunity opens, when they came up to me about the dip vat, I said, give me 3 weeks. This is pre-internet. Those drawings had to be sent in the mail to show how to do concrete reinforcement. But I went through the door and I did the job. And it was shown in the movie. And then that metal plate that got put in there, they took that out and then everything worked fine after that. And then I went on and Jim and I built like 4 more dip vat projects. We did a lot of projects together.
Yeah.
And he was this tiny little company, a good team together. And I teamed up with him. I did that.
Yeah.
This is all stuff when I was in my 20s.
Yeah. And you said very importantly that you sold your work, not yourself. And you
yes. What I did, now this is one of my drawings right here. There's one of my drawings right there. What I learned to do was to show off my drawings.
Yeah.
I showed off my drawings. There's a,
Yeah.
it came out kind of blurry,
Yeah.
but I learned to sell my work rather than myself.
Yeah.
So an interview was go in there and lay the drawings on the table and show them all kinds of pictures of jobs. That's what I did. I sold the work.
Yeah.
And I discussed, I have my new book, Visual Thinking, but in my old autobiography, Thinking in Pictures,
Yeah.
which is now like 26, 27 years old,
Yeah.
I discuss, some of my early things. And where you can get a danger time is, well, the farmer ranchman, after I'd been there for a couple of years or so, they got a new boss. He thought I was weird. And I didn't recognize the subtle signs that Jim, the new boss, didn't like me. But Susie, who did the advertising layout, I think she was on the autism spectrum. She says, Jim doesn't like you. We're going to have to get a big portfolio of all of your work and show it to Jim. And I showed him this big, thick scrapbook, every article I'd written. He gave me a raise.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing.
And I want to thank Susie, who did advertising layout, for recognizing the warning signs, because I didn't.
Yeah. Temple, and what are your plans and your goals? You're 76. You've had an incredibly full life. You've made such a difference, and you're still making a difference. Is there anything that you're still out to achieve? What are your next years looking like?
Well, I'm doing a lot of speaking engagements, doing an autism conference. I'm also doing a lot of talks with businesses. And I explain to businesses that they need the different kinds of skills. And there are some educators that don't even realize that visual thinking exists. They think you need algebra for logical thinking, but that is not how I think. I don't need algebra for logical thinking. I just see solutions to problems, or I see something that could be a problem. It's visual problem solving. And we need the different minds. What I'm noticing right now, I've been on a lot of elevators that haven't been repaired. Well, that's a great job. It's never going to go away unless we get anti-gravity technology. That's not happening anytime soon.
Yeah. Temple, I'm so
And there are a lot more women in the industry now. There's lots of women. But when I started in the 70s in the Arizona cattle industry, the only women who worked at a feed yard were secretaries in the office. But the ag journalism had a lot more women. I was very lucky that I went that route, because writing, very important part of my career, very important. And it started with one little article that summarized my master's thesis on the behavior of cattle and different types of squeeze chutes.
Yeah.
And then I did a good job of covering meetings. I would cover those speeches accurately, summarize the speeches at the Arizona cattle feeders accurately. And I got respected for that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're unbelievably respected. And Temple, I'm so grateful for you to take the time today to talk about your life journey and how you got to where you are today, both as a citizen of the world and as a mom of neurodiverse children. And I'm so thankful that there are people like you out in the world who speak up about all the important things that you speak about. And I'm so grateful that we have different thinkers who do things differently and come up and innovate. And so thank you so much.
Well, it really was good to be on this interview. And then I started going back and looking through all the people who had built equipment for me, had worked on designing stuff. I'm going to estimate 20% of them were either autistic, dyslexic, or ADHD. I've been out to the computer tech companies. A lot of those programmers are probably on the spectrum. That would be more the mathematical kind of mind, because autism can come in three types. Visual thinker like me, horrible at higher math. Mathematician, pattern thinker mind, math, pattern, music mind. Or an extreme word thinker, memory person that memorizes every fact about movies. And they can be very, very good in specialized retail, because one of them worked for an auto parts store and they memorized every part number in the warehouse.
Incredible. Yeah. Yes, thank you so much, Temple. Thank you so much for talking to me today about your life and about the differences that you've made.
Okay, well, it's been great to be with you, so I guess I'll sign off now. And